Everything look good? I think so.
Oh, wait, see it.
All right, welcome to our first Senate meeting of this academic year. Thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate you coming in person to the extent you've been able to, and those who are not, we are grateful you're with us virtually. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and we will begin with the roll call. Oh, and Michael is substituting for Laura. He's out sick, so.
Yep. So apologies in advance for mispronunciation. Jennifer Allen. Okay, I'm also marking whether you're like here in person or online. Heidi Banford, I've got in the, oh, hold on a second. Yeah, we know it's being live. Heidi Banford is online. Jim Bellin.
I'm here online.
Online, thank you. And Stacy Boyd.
Here.
Excellent. Jamie Brandenburg. Jamie Brandenburg. Okay. Laura Karamonica. Okay. Obviously, if you're here representing someone as their proxy, please let me know. Carrie Carmack.
Here.
That sounded like an online. Young Cheng. Young Cheng.
Yes, here. Here.
Okay, online. Cool. Okay, good. Got a confusing response there. Morris Council.
Here.
Amy Cuomo.
Here.
Betsy Doms. Clifford Davis.
Here.
Swarna Dutt.
Here.
Kelly Dyer.
I'm here online.
Thanks, Kelly. Jennifer Edelman. That was a year there. Okay. Sarah Elias. Sarah. Georgia Evans.
Here.
Kimberly Green. Robert Griffin.
Here.
Patrick Hadley. John Hampton.
I'm here online.
I'm here in person. Is there someone representing Mark Jansen? We got the note that they would not be present. Okay, next. Sue Harapasmino. I see you. Excellent. Farouk Khan. I saw Farouk online earlier. I'm going to continue to assume that's happening. Anna Kozaks.
Here in person.
Yay. Gavin Lee. Sungwon Lee. I've got Emily McKendry Smith subbing for Corey Maggiano. Is that? Yep, I see you there. So yes, that's happening. Cody Mason.
I'm here in Zoom. Here I am in Zoom. Thank you.
Yay. Jarius Matthews.
Right.
Yeah. Tammy McClennan. Dylan McLean.
I'm here online.
Yep. Kyung Hee Moon.
Here in person.
Excellent. Thank you. Glenn Oliviera Parker.
Here in person.
In person. Brian Perry.
Here online.
Okay. I'm going back because I saw Patrick come in. So we'll change that. I got online for Brian Perry. Laura Phillips.
Here.
Walter Riker.
Here.
Yeah. John Roberts.
Here online.
Chief Justice in the House. Okay. Scrolling down. Mina Rollins.
Here.
Yeah. JC Song.
Here.
In person. Excellent. Thank you. Beth Shepard.
Here.
Yeah. Huang Shin.
Here online.
Online. Thank you. Jason Swift.
Here.
Scott Sykes. Julie Talbot, I believe I saw online. Corey Waters.
Here.
Jennifer Weber. Jack Way.
Here online.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Erica Wentz.
I'm here online.
Awesome. Sarah Wofford.
I'm here online.
Okay. And Lee Yang.
Here in person.
Awesome. If you haven't heard your name called and you came in after I started, just catch me at the end of the meeting and I'll correct these notes. Okay, Mr. Chair. Yep.
Thank you so much. So the April minutes from our last meeting have been approved electronically. We will move on to administrative reports.
Great. First back to the Senate meeting of the year. All right. I figured I would update you on one thing and then take any question anybody has since I gave my university address last month. And we've kind of had lots of updates on lots of things, including you receiving from the desk of the president a few minutes ago. So I thought I'd walk you through the elevation to Division I and may or may not have heard of in the last week. And I say that because that is a really important thing for the University of West Georgia, an important milestone, an important move. But let me take you back to last November so that I'm going to walk you through the business case for why we came to, I would use the term having to make that. In November of 2022, I was at a board of directors meeting for the Gulf South Conference. Every athletic conference has a board of directors. They are made up of the member presidents. And then normally one athletic director is also part of that board, represents all of the rest of the athletic directors. We were informed that we were going to have 2 football sponsoring members of the Gulf South Conference leaving. Shorter University and an affiliate member, North Greenville. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but football sponsoring schools in Division II in the South Atlantic region are not that common, right? There's a finite number of them, and it's not the type of sports, people don't kind of expand and contract sports portfolios. Kind of the same way we do academic programs, right? There's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot to wind down. So I immediately ordered a feasibility study so that we could have professionals study what our options are. They took into consideration every other Division II conference in the South Atlantic region to see if we had other membership possibilities. The answer was no. You have you either don't have a football sponsoring division or conference. They are HBCU only, or they are state only. Like in Arkansas, they have a conference where they just play themselves. So we don't have any other Division II options. So now you have current state, we keep doing what we're doing, or we look at Division I. Our costs were going to go up pretty significantly because the only options that the Gulf South Conference would have is to expand the geography. We would start looking into Texas, into Louisiana. So the costs for conducting collegiate athletics at the University of West Georgia were going to go up, but the revenues that could come in, guarantee gains, corporate sponsorships, NCAA distributions, are already maximized. There is no more money that we could generate to help support those activities. So we started looking at Division I options with a really critical lens. When I say that, we can't move to Division I unless you have an invitation from a conference. During the course of our study period, we engaged other conferences. We ended up having 3 who were interested in the University of West Georgia. I did ask, how often that happens. The consultant that we've worked with said, never. He's just never seen it when 3 conferences were interested in a school. So we really concentrated on what would the business model be for each of those. What we learned is this: The revenue streams that were available to support collegiate athletics at the University of West Georgia in Division I outpaced the expenses, because we will have increased expenses, whether we stayed in Division II or went to Division I. But the revenue streams, when you project it out over the next 5 fiscal years, if we stayed in our current state, 5 years from now, we would be running $1 million deficit every year just to keep doing exactly what we're doing today. In Division I, we are projecting out $1 million revenue over expense. And let me take you into the details as to why. So last year, I'm going to take guarantee games first. Last year, we played Old Miss in a men's basketball game. We put our team on a bus. We drove to Old Miss. We played basketball. We turned around and we came home. They paid us $12,000 for that privilege. $12,000. Next year, let's just say we play Old Miss for men's basketball as a member of the Atlantic Sun Conference at Division I. We will put the team on the bus. We will drive over to Ole Miss, play basketball, put the team back in the bus and drive back to Carrollton. They will pay us $90,000 for the exact same experience. University of West Georgia in Division I will play football. We will play teams like Georgia. You notice University of Tennessee Martin was their first game this year. We will play at Alabama or Ole Miss, and I'm just throwing those out because it's not like we have agreements in place right now. It just will happen. And when we do, we will, generally speaking, on average, those pay somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000 for the privilege. Now, we might get our butt kicked in those contests, but we will do it on national television. And the type of visibility that comes from that is significant. I will also note that is a much more sustainable model. In our pro formas, we use very conservative revenue. So we would average out a football guarantee game at $350,000, even though all of the data says it's generally going to pay more than that. NCAA distributions are a key piece. So understand that, especially in football, about 96% of the NCAA budget comes from March Madness. That is the 64-team contest in March for men's and women's basketball that everybody illegally gambles in by betting friends for things. 96% of the NCAA budget comes from that, even though more money is generated in nationally televised football contests, right? So NCAA distributions are based on really visibility metrics. Generally, the University of West Georgia receives about $50,000 a year for NCAA distributions. As a member of the Atlantic Sun Conference, that will be between $900,000 and $1.1 million. There's some factors in there related to visibility that make that variable. Now, I am a communications scholar by trade, but I did the math, and that is a lot more. Even though our costs aren't dramatically different. I say that because the University of West Georgia is currently 320+% of the enrollment of the average Division II school in the United States. 320+%. We are 120+% based on fiscal year 23 enrollment of the average Division I school. We are already bigger than most Division I schools in the United States. Our facilities for athletics probably rank in the top 15% across the country, maybe the top 20%, maybe it depends on how you vary it. And that matters because you can't make a move like this unless you have the infrastructure to do it. Kennesaw State is moving from the Atlantic Sun Conference this year into a Power 5 conference. Our football stadium is already bigger than theirs. They have some pretty big investments that they're going to have to go and make. We have almost zero facilities investments that have to be made. We will be expanding our sports portfolio, so we will bring men's track and field back to the University of West Georgia. It was here for years. We've had a lot of alums who used to run track or throw for us who have been in tears for the last week. Because that thing that made West Georgia so special to them and disappeared is now coming back. It's a reinvigoration of a tradition. Because we already have women's indoor and outdoor track, so men's track and field counts for two sports, indoor and outdoor. Because we already have the infrastructure, there's no facilities investments that need to be made. And we get to leverage our capacity already. Second, we'll have beach volleyball. Now, many of you have been all over campus, know that we do not have a beach volleyball court that would be used for NCAA competition. We do have one, it just can't be used for NCAA competition. That's about a $20,000 investment. Because they wouldn't let me come out and just dig it out and pour the sand myself on a weekend. But that's a minimal investment, and it already plays off of our indoor women's volleyball program, right? So we're just building on internal capacity. And then the final one is stunt. Now, last year, we won a UCA national championship in stunt. That was 4 students who are already part of the best cheerleading program in the United States of America, who competed in a different event than our normal all-girl or co-ed cheer. So us adding stunt doesn't require anything because we already have the capacity. It just puts us into NCAA competition in that particular sport, which I am fairly certain we will be a dominant force in very, very quickly. So I say that because then we add another revenue stream in there. Have guarantee games and NCAA distributions, which pay, just put us in a more sustainable place than we ever would have been or have been in Division II. The primary expense increase moving to Division I is in student support. For instance, if you have a Division II for football, you have what's called a scholarship equivalency. And that's 36. You can piecemeal it. You can give a student a quarter scholarship or a full scholarship, right? Well, at Division I, we're required to essentially transpose those numbers and go to 63, right? But because we don't have any of these other infrastructure expenses, capital expenses, and we're already just going off our own capacity, all of those costs are fully offset plus more with those new revenue streams. One of the key ones is corporate sponsorships. So we have corporate sponsorships we have had for years. Most of them are right here in this region. In fact, most of them come out of Carrollton, Georgia. Why? Because the visibility associated with collegiate athletics at Division II is very regionalized. And in some cases, we get a little bit of statewide, right? But now we'll be on national television. Last year, the Atlantic Sun Conference did more than 300 contests on ESPN or other national networks. And I say that because just the Atlantic Sun was contracted for, I think the number was 324, but things like guarantee games don't count toward that number. So if we went off and played in Alabama during the first week of college football season and we're on NBC or CBS or ESPN, that would not count toward that. That creates a corporate sponsorship opportunity where visibility is much greater. And because that visibility is much greater, we get a chance to go and engage companies and create a value proposition for them being associated with the University of West Georgia that is far beyond anything that we've experienced before. In fact, I sat as part of this process with many of our longtime corporate partners. And we had a multi-billion-dollar company who said, well, now we're interested. But the one thing you have to do is make certain that you raise the prices on us, which I was happy to oblige them with, because we're worth more to them. Their association with the University of West Georgia is worth more to them. So I say that this business case is the full reason why we made that transition. It is not one just so that we can go and play on television. It is not one just so that we can go and have opponents that are in Nashville and Jacksonville, Florida, and Fort Myers, Florida, and Charlotte, and Louisville, and we represent Atlanta instead of kind of smaller places, right? It's not just visibility. It is a strategic business decision to try to future-proof the University of West Georgia by making a major portion of our enterprise, and one that, whether we like it or not, is the most visible thing in colleges across the country. It's trying to put us in a position where we can sustain that for decades to come. And embrace the fact that UWG is a lot bigger, has a greater capacity for presence than our station has given ourselves credit for. Now we get to introduce the rest of the world to the great things that we experience at this university every day. So with that, I think I've given you kind of the base business case. I'll take any question on any subject or any detail out of that division of transition, please.
My students are very excited to hear about this, but one asked if D1 supposed to be higher tuition.
This is a great question. The question was, for those who couldn't hear, students were very excited, but they wanted to know if D1 schools pay higher tuition. So let's do two. Let's do tuition and fees. So one, tuition is set by the Board of Regents, it's set by sector. So no, we have the same base tuition that, say, even Georgia Southern, which is Division I and Kennesaw. We have the same kind of, there's a little bit of play in there, but generally speaking, it's about the same. Now, if any of those schools went up to the research sector in the USG, yeah, tuition would go up about, say, $3,000 or $4,000. I think annually. I think my number's right, approximately by that, John. But I said that's really set by sector. Now let's go to fees. Students have an athletic fee that they pay. That athletic fee will never go up. And that was part of that business case. Not one new cost was going to come to students at the University of West Georgia. And if we couldn't put together a business case where that was at the heart of the business case, then we weren't going to move forward with it in the first place. So go back to your students, they can be more excited about that fact. This is all based on revenue streams that we could take advantage of that we just didn't have access to. And we need to find, I've said it 1,000 times, other alternative ways to bring dollars into this institution. That was the whole basis for launching the UWG Research Corporation. Right, it provides opportunities the same way Georgia Tech Research Institute does to bring alternative revenue streams into this institution by taking advantage of our capabilities and capacity. Glenn?
Could you just give a high level view of cost areas associated with Division I and joining ASUN? Because I was trying to see, what is there a membership fee to, say, having joined the Atlanta?
Oh, absolutely. There's a membership fee for everything. It's like,
They don't put it on their website.
I mean, you can't be part of any of the professional associations in any of our disciplines without paying a membership fee, right? And that's the same thing for athletics. There is an exit fee for the Gulf South Conference. We've been in that conference for about 4 decades. We will pay $110,000 to exit the Gulf South Conference. We have a $200,000 entrance fee into the Atlantic Sun Conference. That will actually be paid over multi-years because I wanted them to do some things. So it's kind of an incentive for them. But that's the totality of those conference entrances. Others? Please.
Thank you very much. I have no idea what you just said, but I know that it will help my marriage. I see us on TV and get to have common ground with my husband. Well, thank you. So my question is, all these big profits that will be made, how will they be distributed? And I think the main question is really what distributed, right?
Yeah, so one, let's not refer to them as profits. There are about, there are Dr. Council, 2,000, 3,000 athletic programs, collegiate athletic programs in the United States. 20 of them are revenue over expense annually. So please don't think we're going to make money. What we are doing is sustaining our investment, right? We are going to have, if I could get a television contract to run the library, to fund that, I would go and get a television contract for the library, right? We were gonna pay for the library anyways. We're trying to find ways that are more sustainable and not just increasing costs to those who are in service to be able to have those things as part of the university. So all of the dollars that will be generated are really just ways of decreasing our the pressure of the expenses that exist in collegiate athletics and producing the richest experiences we can for students. And that's not just student athletes, that's also, I like that you mentioned your connection with your husband. Because this time of year, yes, Saturdays, there seem to be a lot of lonely people because of college football. Those events that we host on campus, those contests are part of people's student experience. So that's where all of those revenue streams go. It's just into those more sustainable business model. Yeah, I have to say, it was, I've represented 5 universities. I've been in an SEC school, been in Division I in 2 different conferences, been in Division II. I have never seen an opportunity for a university to elevate and take advantage of all of the elevation and that make more sense for the actual revenue and expense ratio. I just think the University of West Georgia is in such a unique position in America. There's only about, I think it's 22 schools that have done what we're doing over the last 25 years. So we are in a rare situation as an institution, and we studied many of those schools. We really went back and studied. You have not heard me talk about enrollment because I won't. It's not a proven data point, but each of the schools that we studied, all of them in the South, the increase in enrollment was, say, between 10 and 15%. A lot of that concentrated at the undergraduate level. So again, I'm not going to use that as a data point, but I share that with you because there's kind of some residual things that come along with that. We don't put those, like that's additional revenue too, but that revenue would just pay for the capacity of the university, right? Others? Any subject? Bless you. Thank you. Any subject at all?
Anyone online? Okay,
Great.
thank you, President.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to continue the theme. I've got a handout for you because I know that the block scheduling was on people's minds. So you all will help me out in distributing these. Thank you, Doug. I'm going to continue the theme of elevation. D1 in athletics, and I've had this conversation with the deans, a number of faculty across this week. And looking at academic affairs, I'd like to spend our time today to talk about what we're doing to take what we're doing really well and take that to the next level in the same way that athletics is doing. I think academic affairs has a strong case to say we're fantastic, and we're going to get to capital F fantastic very, very quickly. So I shared this at the general faculty meeting when we launched the fall semester. Want to revisit that, and I shared the data with the Faculty Senate Budget Committee just last night around credit hour production by prefix. Happy to say that the rate at which undergraduate is declining is reducing substantially. So we are turning around that piece, and graduate is growing at a rate that in totality, we have grown overall credit hour production at West Georgia for the first time since FY17. So tremendous opportunity to say that we are starting to grow. Obviously, there are certain areas that are still in decline, and we're working with faculty and with leadership and deans around how do we turn that around and make sure that we are right-sized and firmly established in these academic programs, but also for those areas that are growing. How do we support those faculty? How do we add limited term? How do we add part-time and new positions for these areas of high growth? So happy to say that art, computing, communication, media technology, chemistry, and psychology at the undergraduate level are all up year over year. So kudos to those faculty who've been at and engaged with prospective students and recruiting. That's not just admissions and strategic enrollment management, but that is all of us showcasing greatness in our academic programs and drawing those students to come to West Georgia. At the graduate level, media technology, special education, and ed leadership are the primary areas of growth. And we're going to continue to support academic programs that need to examine critically why is enrollment declining. With the data presented to the budget committee, and that will be shared very soon. We've got Gen Ed, which I know has been a large part of our discussion and narrative across the recent years. English and math in general education and some of those other general education areas have reduced their decline substantially. And when I say that, we're looking at reduction of the decline by as much as 70%. Right, so really starting to see growing first year programs and adding students and thus faculty into those areas. Some of that comes from taking what we're doing and then elevating it to the next level. Villa Rica High School and the Carroll County school system came to us about 9 months ago and said, how can we do dual enrollment differently? How do we make it easier for anyone in the room like me who's had children do dual enrollment? You've got to talk with the guidance counselor in high school, then you've got to figure out and navigate. And we have an advantage in this because we are at the institution, but you got to figure out which classes, work with the GSD on which ones will be supported and funded, and then back and forth with counseling both at the high school as well as at the institution. We're streamlining that all together. We did information sessions at Villa Rica High back in the spring. We made families and students aware of this opportunity and then designated specific sections of intro courses in the general education space that they could take as a cohort. So solve the transportation issue, which is also often a barrier, and said, we're going to make sure that you can get to campus. You're going to be with your friends. You're going to take 2 classes back to back and then get bused back to your high school for lunch and in time for the other activities. We're seeing that grow and then looking at expanding that. Douglas County is interested in that. Coweta County is interested in that. And so we are taking that model, rather than putting all of that work on the families and the high school counselors, we're saying, how can we make this super easy for you? You tell us you want to do dual enrollment. We're going to show you the options. We're going to make it easy and dual advise you, and then increase and retain those students at a higher rate. Right now, we've got about a 30% conversion rate in dual enrollment. If you come here for dual enrollment, we want to keep you and have you come and study for 3.5, 4 years and get your bachelor's degrees with us. So it's things like that we're exploring and just doing what we're doing even better and trying to figure out ways that we can make it as easy as possible on students. And I'll also say faculty and staff. So what you've got in front of you here with the block scheduling, and appreciate Jeff, you reaching out and saying that this was an item of great interest. We had a working group that consisted of Dr. Akins, Dr. Owen, Dean Gagnon, Dr. Widener, Dr. Reber, Registrar's Office, Donna Haley, Sonia Adams, and Whitney Brand out of the Office of the Provost to say, we've got all of these different ways of offering courses. We had over 40 different start times of classes in any given day. So you might have a class that starts at 9, another one starts at 9:05, another one starts at 9:31, and it was just unwieldy. Now, I was told that Banner and our computer systems required that you couldn't have a class end at 9 and another one start at 9. And you know me and my feeling on computer. Yes, that's my background, but we should be telling the computer what to do, not the other way around. So we looked at this as a working group and said, if our driving force should be, let's make it easy. Start at the top and the bottom of the hour. Let's get some consistency there so that when I sign up for an English 1101, that doesn't prevent me from also taking that college algebra because there's a 5-minute overlap. If we have some consistency in start times and also patterns of day of the week, then let's avoid some of these collisions that students discover when they're trying to build their schedules. Additionally, I think departments and colleges and schools often, and then even student organizations, student clubs, have a hard time finding space when everyone is able to attend. oh, I'm sorry, I'm teaching class at that time, I can't make such and such meeting. So one of the other driving forces that many of us have experienced at other institutions was, can we designate a time during the week where these are guaranteed open spaces where we're not going to schedule classes? That means we can have department meetings, we can have faculty senate meetings, we can have student club meetings. We can get together and have coffee or bubble tea, whatever you'd like to do. And so one of the things that you'll see in this is noon to 1 o'clock has been blocked from classes so that we can come together. It's part of that belonging and placemaking that's so important to an institution. And it's going to open up opportunities to engage formally and informally with each other and students in ways that really our current scheduling does not allow. So I present this to you and I commend that working group for working across the last 2 months. This has been presented to deans, to the Executive Administrative Council, to the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, and now to you. And we asked all faculty to say what works, what doesn't work. Had a great conversation with Dean Schuessler yesterday, who raised the fact that nursing in the cohort, this works, and let's not disrupt that. And there's no conflict. It's very, very rare where a nursing student who's been admitted into the nursing student would also need to take a gen ed class that might commit, right? I mean, it never happens. I love that we're getting some nods here, right? So yes, if we've got particular academic programs where you're doing your own schedule and it's a cohort, and we don't need to move it by a half hour because what you've got is perfect, fantastic, we'll keep that. But we've got to get away from these small overlaps that are just causing undue conflict as students are trying to build schedules. I'll also point out that as you see, yes, we're listing Monday, Wednesday, Friday as an option there for 3 classes that meet 3 times a week. But there's nothing in here that prevents us from going hybrid and saying, we're not going to meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're going to meet Monday, Wednesday, and then a third of the class is going to be hybrid. And in the broader document that the working group created, there's all kinds of guidance and detail that will be shared, and you can digest all of those details and provide feedback. If it's a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Monday, Wednesday, you can do 50% hybrid and have 1 day a week. And as we look at Noonan, in Douglasville, and in Carrollton as well, but more and more people are wanting, yes, that on-campus experience, but because of other obligations, maybe they need to meet for that class only 1 day a week. They want to stack their schedule so that they can do everything Tuesday and Thursday and then attend to other things outside of that. Or for our graduate programs, many of them, yes, have online opportunities, but for those grad programs, maybe someone's working and they want to come and meet with their faculty and be in class just on Tuesday night. So they can stack 6 p.m., 7:30 p.m., and then everything else is online. You get the best of both worlds. So please know this is not a done deal. This is a draft. We're looking for your input. Please put eyes on this. In fact, when it was presented to the Dean's Council, someone found a typo. One of the options, one of these start times on the second to last column was incorrectly shaving off an hour where we were supposed to be meeting. So we went back and fixed that. Kudos to, lots of eyes make for great plans. We would be launching this starting fall 24. Once we get input, once we have discussion, bringing it back before the Faculty Senate. Spring is being built and is about to go live right now. So we don't have time to launch this. As much as we might want to make the fixes and simplify scheduling for students, just need some more time on that. So clearly want to have input and make sure we're ironing out all the wrinkles of it before we make the decision. So thank you for reviewing that and giving us some feedback. Also, another thing that we're elevating, you saw from the desk of the president, reminding again today, the donation that underwrites the new College of Math Computing or Mathematics Computing and Sciences. Have had some questions around that, and we have not taken any action on this yet because we needed to get through SAC COC last week. We have a pretty big milestone. Every 10 years, we're doing this reaffirmation work. And many of you and a lot of the folks online and across campus have done a tremendous amount of work across the last really year plus in looking at our QEP, informing that, and then also creating responses demonstrating how West Georgia is fully compliant with all of the standards that SACS is expecting of us. We happily submitted that last week, and now we are in the phase of the offsite review. We will have the on-site review April 1st. As we mentioned last time we were together, that's not a joke, right? We'll be hosting, and I have every confidence that we are not only right now really well prepared in how we've answered those standards, but also as they go through the process of reviewing and diving deep, we'll be able to answer any questions that come up. But because of that big work, we are forming the working group and listening sessions around what does this new college look like? How does that impact the entire institution? And we will be having listening sessions and discussions throughout the next months on what that looks like. So you haven't missed anything. Be on the lookout by the end of this month for more information about what that looks like. If you are interested in being on that working group, I've had a few people reach out, happy to hear from you, and really want wide representation, not just in mathematics, computing, and science, but also broadly, because this change impacts and has ripple effects throughout the institution. So happy to have those conversations, and really across the next 9 months, dive deep into a tremendous opportunity in the same way that moving from D2 to D1 is not an everyday occurrence. Right? This is quite rare. Forming a new college with all of the opportunities that come with the philanthropy around that is going to allow us to do some fantastic things. And we want to get this absolutely right and benefit. So mentioned SAC-COC, the board vote will occur December of 24. So we have a lot of time for due process. And if there are any things that we need to clarify or correct, we will have ample time to do that. I'm going to talk about ITS and the switch from Google to Microsoft. This also is not a done deal. We are examining this, and I just talked with Kirk Inman this morning around a timeline of that. We're going to be piloting that with a select group, looking at Microsoft's Teams and other technology. But I want to share with you, if you haven't heard Kirk mention this, we are only one of 3 institutions in the university system of Georgia that still uses the Google platform. So whenever we are having a conversation with our colleagues with the system office, it's always pressing the wrong button. It's upper left instead of bottom right. That consistency, in the same way that we're applying it to how we're scheduling courses, that consistency in how we're engaging and live streaming and recording classes, how we're having online meetings. I know every time we come into a faculty senate meeting, or really any meeting for that matter, there's an online component. There's always that rub the rabbit's foot and see if the technology works for us, right? We want to simplify that dramatically. I'll also say that there's a technology called Teams Rooms that is a small box you put here, easy to use interface. It would cut our cost of having AV in the classroom in half. And it would simplify it dramatically. It would show, based on the team schedule, I'm Professor X, I'm coming in and I log into the system. It knows my schedule and the courses that I'm teaching because of my calendar and how that's integrated. And I just tap launch course and it just happens. I'm a big fan of simplification, especially when it comes to technology. And rather than spend our time fighting the cords and the devices, let's focus on education and teaching. So we'll be examining these texts. I was mentioning at the beginning of this meeting, one message I'd like to convey is that this is not going to cost you time. It's not going to cost you having to, yes, there's a bit of a context switch from technology A to B, but you're not going to have to move your files. That's going to happen automatically for you. You're not going to have to rebuild your contact list. That's going to happen for you. You're not going to have to migrate your email over. That's going to happen for you. Any switch, and I would put to the room, I'm the biggest critic of technology. If it's going to cost us time, then I'm ferreting that out, before it ever gets before you for review. So we're working strongly with ITS to make sure that this is as easy on students and faculty and staff as possible. As we pilot that, as we test that technology out, more details to come, and we will have tons of how-to videos to make sure this is super easy. So along those lines, common course components. We started talking about this a year ago, about leveraging our investment in D2L and some tech that we were already using. And how do we take what students are clamoring for in consistency in how we present courses and create that across? Happy to say, and correct me, Relitza, David, I think we've got a 95, 99% adoption rate with the grade book with the syllabus and a common experience. You've heard me use the analogy, I can go to Seattle and road signs are going to be the same in Seattle as they are here in Atlanta. The names might change, right? They might not have as many Peachtree students as we do. But my ability to navigate that city is going to be the same regardless. We're trying to do the same thing. And I really want to take a moment and commend the faculty for leaning in on this. And yes, it was a change, but that adoption rate, I will share that when I talk with other provosts and other institutions across the state, they've spent years and they're still only maybe 50% adoption. We saw this as a benefit to students, right? IFE and UWG Online really created a nice support mechanism for all those how-to videos and made it as easy as possible. So I want to thank them and their leadership, but also thank you for saying, yes, this is new, this is different, but let's give it a go. And it's really benefiting our students. It also establishes a new baseline for what we can do. And now that we've got this, we can, if all of the student assignments are being turned in consistently, then if it's 12 hours before something is due, we can text them or we can email them and say, give them a positive nudge saying, hey, I know you're working on this, but don't forget, it's due. Now, how many times has a student come to you and said, I don't know what happened, my mind I totally forgot, can I turn this assignment in late? Anyone have that? I haven't. I've had that. This is going to remove that. And how many students who are fantastic and would otherwise graduate and be retained just get caught in things like that and their progress is hurt? If we can use technology to support them in a positive way, then that's going to remove so many of the issues that we face. In addition, hey, can you tell me, how am I doing in the class? Have I got an A? Have I got a D? I don't know. I've gotten some feedback. I just don't know where I stand. Being able to automatically calculate that and give that support to a student, and then use that data in advising and to faculty to say, here are the students that we really need to lean into and help out because they're going in the wrong direction. We need to intervene. Having a consistent platform for all of our courses is going to enable so many great things like that. And it's going to uplift this institution and student success in a grand way. So I'm really excited about what that looks like coming up. I know we've got other items, so I'm going to save a couple of these, but I did want to address the promotion and tenure and PTR. We've worked for the last year. I appreciate that departments and colleges and schools are updating their local versions of what those changes about student success and the Board of Regents updates at a global level and our institutional PTR and our P&T docs. And you all are now implementing those locally. As I always do, I want to lean in and say this year is a year of transition. And we are going to extend grace and understand that people that are going up this year, and to some extent, even in the next cycle, need that ability to cross-fade. So for anyone going up this year that you're articulating what student success is and what does that mean in your portfolio, I assure you that we have embedded those into our teaching service and scholarship and creative activity. Our own standards identify that those are activities that contribute to student success. And I want you to know that if you've been doing great things and articulating that reasonably within that portfolio, you will be well positioned during that review cycle. And as you all are creating the local definition of examples of what that means, appreciate that work. We're reviewing them. They'll be codified. And then since we are still mid-cycle right now and people are going up, you are going up under that existing standard, not the one that is being formatted. So take that assurance and know that we will mature these and get them in place and have them very clear for future cycles. But as those people are going up right now, you are in a good spot. One thing that we are adding though is a cover sheet to all of the P&T packets, or that and the annual reviews, particularly the annual reviews that have the areas of measure, right? Teaching, service, scholarship, and now student success. And then that 1 through 5 scale that we have consistently created now across the USG. The system office is asking us to report this for all of our annual reviews. So we are working with them on how exactly that occurs. I want to make sure everyone knows this isn't, Orwellian and looking in. They're just looking to collect the data. We have an obligation from a SAC COC perspective to maintain the records in these documents. So nothing is changing there except creating a simple top page rather than having to read the long narrative on how people were reviewed. So when you see that come out, it's nothing new. It's just a front matter that allows you to self-evaluate where you believe that you are, the supervisor, the department chair, doing the marking, having an opportunity for you to respond to that before it goes up to the next level, and then that being documented in your annual review. No change there beyond what we've already established. With that said, any questions? Happy to dive deep into any of this. Yes.
Thank you. Comment first about doing most Spanish and Bill. If my students are doing enrolled and they are disciplined and the best students I've ever had, so. That's
Why not?
Great to hear.
it's great. I'm happy.
They are fantastic. Looking to grow that in Douglasville in particular. Superintendent North is very interested in expanding that with UWG. He recognizes this institution as the best partner in the region. You'll have more than 6.
Oh, great, thank you. My next
Yes.
questions are in regards to the block schedule. I'd like to know, how set in stone it is and what the procedure of commenting and voting on it is. I understand how it is going to be. I would just like to know the following steps when I can take it back to my department, and mainly whether we will be able to vote, how we can give feedback. And if any students have been consulted, I'm an alumna of the university, and I would just like to know the students that have their.
Yeah, I'm going to refer to Dr. Akins, the working group, but I don't know that we've solicited this to students, but to your first question, I'm going to work with Dr. Rever. We're going to give after this, because I know this is paper, which is fantastic, but we need e-copies distributed and information around. If you have comments or questions, please go here.
Yes, we actually do have 2 pages worth of comments now. We don't have time for that here. And I mean, it looks good. It looks like it's trying to help a lot. However, us from the field, we do have a lot of improvements and we.
Love to hear that. One of the first questions was, oh, we're starting at 7:30.
Yeah.
So who's here to turn on the lights and open doors and so forth? Appreciate that question. It's a great point. I'll also say, just because it says 7:30 doesn't mean that all of our classes are starting at 7:30. This is an option. So understand, we're going to follow demand and continue to hear what students are wanting.
Perfect. Soon to hear about how.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just real quick on that. I mean, at this point, it's an information item for the Senate.
I'm new as well.
Yeah,
so I
no,
appreciate your patience.
course.
I'm new to this.
I want everyone to hear this, but it's an information item for the Senate at this point. There will be a period of time for feedback to be provided, possibly through a survey or writing things onto a Google Sheet, or however we organize that together. So there, probably from the provost office, because it's an information item for the Senate. I'm not officially acting on it in any way as the chair at this point, but there will be then a time allotted for ample feedback. My understanding.
Absolutely.
And with that feedback, then this is a draft, so changes can be made. You know, the draft can change and be revised. So some of you get a little nervous when you see things like this. I know I do too, as a faculty member, but it's not set in stone. But it is a working document that we hope to develop towards a schedule that will meet student need and faculty need to be able to educate all of our students. The big reason for the 7:30 part is dual enrolled students in certain districts need to start their classes at a certain time. So it's not just about all students. Some students need special help in areas. Some faculty teach certain kind of courses that need to be, managed in certain ways. So we need all that feedback. No one should hold back. All senators. I've asked the executive committee chairs to gather feedback within the committee, and the chairs will be giving that directly to me. But as far as I can't handle all faculty. So as far as the overall feedback, that will be through some mechanism like a survey. But we want everyone to comment on this and to help. Inevitably, there will need to be exceptions made to whatever block schedule is agreed upon. So we're not going to have people just, forced to do things they can't do, but we do need to think about students as a whole and in their particular groupings and make sure we're developing a schedule that suits them and our teaching and our pedagogical sort of conception of what helps a student learn best, including what time of day students learn best.
Is there specific deadline by that we're looking at?
We'll publish that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think the fall 24 schedule goes live in March. So we've got plenty of time to discuss this and edit and still leave schedule building time.
Just to echo that we are asking for feedback. And that the course schedule building will be starting sometime November, December this year to be ready for the publication in March. And we are eager and we'll be very happy to hear feedback from each and every faculty about different aspects. So we can accommodate majority of constituents. And again, we will allow for those special cases, additional discussion and discussion. So please don't worry, just give us feedback. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so you, we could give you feedback, but is it going to be based on what is actually suggested here, or can we add more schedule in there too? Because we have so many 4-unit courses in our program, mathematics, calculus, and recalculus, and so on. And we used to have Tuesday and Thursday and Friday courses, but then it doesn't show in here at all. So there's something like that can be added later on.
I believe that discussion occurred together with Dr. Owen. For some specifics, when certain courses need to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, in a block matter. According to Whitney, the schedule will allow that. However, please put your feedback and your special needs, and we will revisit to ensure that it's taken into consideration.
Yes.
Mr. President, is there any consideration or any way that campus-wide software purchasing could be considered at a USG level, so each institution isn't dealing with these variable costs and these changes in these ways, especially if you confront AI and the changes that'll happen all of our work lives and campus life. It just seems that it would be so much wiser for USG to kind of tackle this. And I totally agree with your experience, like when dealing with colleagues from other campuses there on Microsoft Teams, and I have to navigate to get there. So I look forward to moving to Microsoft too. But it just seems like this is an issue that should be at the USG level.
Yeah, great question for online. The question was around standards and can we do purchasing and get economies of scale, and maybe they are doing that to some extent. I know the Adobe software, we've negotiated that and opened up new opportunities for students. Remote access for Adobe Creative has been opened up in the last year. So the system office and IT there is always looking at, we're spending $1 million at each campus. Can we, rather than doing that individually, can we get a better deal and save money? That is an ongoing conversation with the system office. If you see beyond just standard, document editing and office suite, but if you see individual purchases that you all are having to make, I'm happy to talk with Kirk Inman about that ITS and system office IT services on how can we get a better price point if we're buying these things in bulk, essentially. Kind of the Costco and Sam's model.
I think we should address one other issue there. There are limits to centralization. So economies of scale also has to be balanced with who controls those assets. I've been in university systems where we did exactly that. We centralized the use of them. And then all of a sudden, they're coded to whatever the largest university is. Everybody else just has to do workarounds. So I am, as president, I get sensitive about making certain that we balance economies of scale with giving us the ability to provide exactly what the distinctive experience of the University of West Georgia is, as opposed to trying to homogenize that too much based on little cost savings on some platforms. It's a little different issue than what you just addressed, but we have a lot of ability to customize things around our way of delivering education here. We don't want to lose that for a minor discount. Does that make sense?
Most of them.
I just want to clarify, so you will set up a way for faculty to get feedback on the schedule that you will take into account. My question is, does this information item ever become an action item to send it to vote on?
I don't believe the schedule is the purview of faculty to vote at faculty senate. That said, I think we're looking to build a consensus and have everybody represented in this. So there might be some changes, but if you say, if we do this, this is going to break our academic program and the pedagogical design that we have. Let's figure that out. It's not an imposition. It should be, this makes sense. The two driving points were, let's avoid conflict when a student is taking class A and class B and there's a 5 or 10 minute overlap. And let's simplify that. But then the other was, let's also preserve that common time when we can come together and we don't have things scheduled. Within that, I think there's a lot of flexibility. If you've got suggestions, whether it's 4-hour math classes or labs or the psychology and 4-hour courses, there's all kinds of different reasons. I mean, the nursing was a great example of that. Let's figure out how to make it work. We're not going to impose a schedule that breaks learning. So
Thank you for clarification.
whether it's a formal vote of the Senate or not, we're going to take everyone's needs into account and hear that and make sure that it works, because first and foremost, student learning and pedagogical design should drive that.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Yes.
Following back to the technology, Microsoft Teams. Assuming that happens, I would assume there'd be something in place that would support faculty in like documenting time and like different, and then like if your documents are in Google Drive, Google Docs, that would transfer.
Yes. So if you're building, that's a great question about faculty dossier and promotion and tenure and annual review. All of that is going to be transferred over right there. And that work should be not on individuals to have to do. It should be ITS and that system transfer. So learning, learning where the button is to mute or unmute or log in or log out, that's annoying enough, right? But saying I've got to learn an entirely new file system, I've got to manually copy documents over, that's onerous. And I'm not. No. Please hear us. We are not going to put that on you and make you undo what you've created. Yes.
Regarding the dual enrollment program, do you have any kind of centralized office or kind of reporting body or something like that, so that faculty members can kind of go in and do the dual enrollment?
Yeah, great question. Do we have any faculty body or input? Largely that is handled within CAXI and UC currently, just because of the courses that are taught. So they're really driving those conversations and helping, especially the Gen Ed Math and English out of UC. But that's a great suggestion, and I'm going to take that back and say, if you've got faculty that are really interested in helping design and serve dual enrollment, and then really that conversion, right? So it's a great resource, and I'm all for accessibility and affordability. But beyond that, let's keep them here, right? They're great students, and clearly they're top of their class. So what can we do to hold on to them at UWG? So let me do some thinking on that, and let's talk further. But I love the suggestion that we've got interested faculty have a place to come together, maybe in this noon hour that we're creating, and having those discussions on an ongoing basis. Thank you. Yes.
I have a question about the dual enrollment as well. So what additional rights and responsibilities or safety issues do we need to consider with having the minors on campus, like in a building and all the rest?
So standard minors on campus apply. The FERPA rules are slightly different as well. I know that that's a consideration when faculty are working with dual enrollment. From a public safety perspective, what we have in place to take care of everyone on campus continues. But from a minor's perspective, for these partnerships that we're creating, we also have an advisor from the high school that's on site working with these cohorts. So what we're offering now is actually an elevated experience and support, but also from making sure those students are taken well care of. Different than if it's just a single dual enrollment student in a general course that we're offering. So moving, again, elevation of that experience. But if you have questions, this is homework for us to, let me get back with you on if there's questions about FERPA and dual enrollment, because there is a parent guardian and by age, what are the changes there? There's some nuance that I'll follow up and we can provide that as information on. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, I just have one element to that. These are all controlled environments. We've been doing dual enrollment for a long time. These are controlled environments that are agreements. We have high school students wander around campus every day who are not in those. They're not dual enrolled students. They're just like being on a university campus. Those are my worries. The dual enrollment piece, we've got a lot of coverage on it. There's some really good standards both for USG policy and for UWG policy. If you see any wayward high school students, let me know.
I'll also add to that. We used to have in many of our lab and tutoring positions a requirement for high school graduation, which made perfect sense. Because most, everyone here has that as a student. We've removed that intentionally so that dual enrollment students can also be tutors, work in the library, have all opportunities for all students be equal. So if you do see a job posting for a lab assistant or a tutor, writing center in your area, and you notice high school graduation is a requirement, that's an error. Please point that out. We'll get that fixed because every student should have full access to opportunity across the institution.
Just someone who's listening on the live stream but wasn't able to offer it's not really a question, more of a statement, but a concern that a survey is not the same as the rigorous Senate committee and full Senate process, and asserts that this would fall within Senate purview. Whether it does or not, I think the question is appropriate. Should the Senate be involved in a way that takes this through committee and Senate process? So we could talk more about that, but I just want to acknowledge that question. I think that's not the only person who would have it. So we will look at our scope and purview and talk with you to see if this would warrant the traditional Senate process for it.
I'm going to look at that.
Yeah.
Marty McPhail, program coordinator of chemistry. I was curious, as a program coordinator in chemistry, we've had a lot of good success getting dual enrollment students specifically to stay in our program and progress towards graduation. What do you see as the role of the program coordinators as a representative of our own programs with the university, reaching out to these high schools, the administrators, and contacts we might have there, and how can we facilitate the dual enrollment process?
Yeah, great point. What is the role of faculty and in particular the program coordinators? So program coordinator purview is working with the peers in the area to make sure that the courses are well defined, right? The review process. Really, it's the phase before UPC, right? I would term that in there. So clearly you all are advocating, and all the faculty in the program advocating. The program coordinator in particular is probably developing alongside the chair and the dean collateral material to advertise and to really sell and showcase our academic programs. Capturing student stories and great students. If I was interested in converting dual enrollment students, I would want to show stories of those that have come before and how they were successful and then had lab assistantships and then went on to grad school or to great careers. So I think that's the best opportunity. You all know these students, you know their successes, you know the strengths of your programs. Being able to present that very clearly, articulating that to high school counselors, and then reaching out and providing those to your chairs and your deans is probably the strongest way of putting those out there and showcasing our programs. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. So in the email announcing the agenda and our time and location, I had a note there to everyone indicating that we are using a consent agenda, especially for the business of UPC and GPC in terms of course and program approvals. So we're rolling it out. so I don't want you to feel like you can't have a comment right now. But remember that the format we're going to be using going forward is that the agenda will come out on Wednesday at noon. And you will need to signify a desire to discuss an item by the time we meet for Senate on Friday. And if you have signified that to Laura, our executive secretary, then we will make sure that we have a discussion on that item. Otherwise, we will go forward with votes. We'll just vote for all of the UPC items or the GPC items that don't need discussion. So just keep that in mind as we're about to turn the time over to Kim and the UPC. We're going to go ahead and allow, comment or question this time, but we do want to make sure you get in the habit of getting those comments to us early, letting us know you want to discuss things so we can be apprised of that and make that a discussion item in our meeting. You had a, yeah. Sure. Yeah. I would love to do that. We're going to try to do that. This month we could have done that because we have a short agenda, but as you know, sometimes there's 30 items on that UPC agenda or GPC agenda. So my commitment is to put that effort in. I don't want to speak on behalf of Laura, who's absent, because she does the bulk of that work, but I think we can try to get it earlier if possible. But as senators, during this time that you serve, please do give some extra time to the agenda between Wednesday and Friday. But we'll do our best. Yeah.
If someone has signified a desire to discuss the possible for the originator to be notified to be in the meeting.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
No one wants to discuss my items.
Yeah.
I don't need to be here, but
Yeah.
I'm planning to be here. You guys are going to discuss that.
Okay. You mean someone who's not a senator?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That
Very
was-
good point.
I'm not sure how we are.
I don't know how quickly we can get that word out.
Well, it'll be, yeah, I've asked Laura to try to do that by Friday morning. It'll be tricky to do it otherwise. I mean, we don't have a lot of time. So we'll try to get that notice to the person Friday night. Yeah, just come. Senate's always fun. Come along. Oh, 7 years. That's nothing. You just can't get enough of us. Okay, good. We'll work on both of those things. Okay, that's my commitment to you. All right. Any other questions or comments before I turn it over to UPC and Kim? All right.
So just present this one as usual then, or?
Yeah, let's just, a brief statement on each item. Yeah.
Okay, we have one action item. If you read in advance, you'll see that this was a new course being added in political science, constitutional law. This was an E-major class that was approved by the consortium for criminal justice majors back in 2021. And it should have been submitted at that time and wasn't. So now we have a set of students who have actually taken it. And if we approve it, then they can get credit for it as part of the program. But if we do not approve it, these students have to take something else instead, and that will delay their graduation. If I understand that this might then be a class that's going to be deleted later on, is what I understand, that this is kind of a bookkeeping, housekeeping matter right now that we're dealing with. Is that fair to say? Okay.
Either for whatever it is, or restricted, so students can't.
Okay, are there any questions about this particular, understanding that if we approve it today, it will cover students who have already taken it. It's not, it will approve students who have already taken it. Okay, any questions? All right, then, ready for a vote. Then all in favor of approving this item?
Raise your hands nice and high so Michael can get them. And then the poll's been launched online. Yes. Okay.
Good. Any opposed? Or any abstaining?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. The last thing we have is an information item. This it was the grading procedure for converting regular non-honors courses to honors credit.
this procedure was approved by the Honors Faculty Council, which makes it then an information item for the Senate. And the route to get it here, since it's curriculum related, comes through UPC. Just very briefly, there are two major changes being proposed from the way these courses honors credit used to be awarded. Instead of being included as a percentage of the course grade now, the honors assignment will be separate. It'll be graded pass, fail, or satisfactory, unsatisfactory, whatever terminology the instructor wishes to use. And then if that assignment is passed or satisfactory, then the honors college will notify the registrar that the student gets honors credit for that. And then secondly, there will be a specified set of assignments from which the instructor might choose. This is in an effort to create a common amount of work for the coursework that receives honors credit at the undergraduate level. So that's what I understand to be the proposal. If anybody has any comments, there are representatives here, I believe, from the Honors Faculty Council who would be more than happy to take that. Concerns or anything? Since it's information, I guess I'll take this.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so for our next item of business, you see there's old business listed there. Chair-elect, my position is empty for the coming year, but it speaks to a broader issue that I think we need to discuss. And we've had some real challenges this year. I don't want to say we're in a crisis, but the Senate is facing some significant challenges in two regards. One is senators serving. Getting people to serve as senators has been more challenging this year than I've seen in the past. And at this point, we still don't have a full slate of senators because of some of the challenges colleges and schools are facing in getting people to do that. So one item we need to discuss as a Senate, we're going to take that time today, is senator serving. The second item is leadership in the Senate. So obviously my position is going to be vacant if someone doesn't step forward in the spring to serve in this role. Also getting committee chairs to serve has been a real challenge. In fact, we have two committees right now without a standing chair. They're operating by rotating the chair or by working as committee. That's not ideal for the work we need to do. So what I want us to do, if you're willing, and I've asked administrators to join us because we need the best minds on this together. And we need to face this and get some solutions in place as quickly as possible. I've asked them to join with us. So what we'll do is we're going to break into some focus groups, small groups for a little bit. And we're going to talk about what you observe to be some of the barriers to folks serving as senators and to folks serving in leadership positions in the Senate. And then we're going to identify some possible resolutions, ways we might solve this problem. Now, I say identify barriers, so I want to be real clear about that. We are not going to engage in a gripe session, if that's okay. I don't think we have time for it. I don't think it'll be productive. You can have as one of the barriers you identify, the current faculty Senate chair is a doofus. You can have that as one of your items. We don't need to know the origin story of my being a doofus, okay? We don't need to analyze it. I already know it well. We don't need to go through it together. So identify, recognize it's a challenge. So for example, faculty morale, important to identify, but we don't need to do a postmortem analysis on how we got here. That will not be productive for the specific task I'm asking us to work on. What I'd like is each group to have someone write these down. An easy way to maybe do that, maybe just kind of four square, barriers over here. And the first section will be on senators. You know, what's the challenge? The barriers to getting senators to serve. And the second might be leadership. How do we get people to serve as leaders in the Senate? And then over here, ideas for solutions. And here, don't hold back. I mean, I've thought myself about whether we need to consider alternative models to faculty senate. There are in some USG institutions what's called a university council, which is made up of faculty, staff, and students serving together, which is interesting to think about, and other models. So here I want us to be very brainstorm active, open sort of the floodgates and let in all the ideas. But again, identify, don't spend too much time getting into the history of this, won't help anybody, I'm afraid. And then over here, start to really think about what can we do? Because we have a legitimate shared governance crisis. And we can't blame it on anyone else. It is us as senators and faculty who need to serve. And if we don't or can't, I need to know that. So what we'll do is do the small group discussions first. For you online, you're going to need to do some chatting, probably written chat, if you don't mind, because I think if you guys discuss verbally, we'll hear it.
I could potentially put them in a breakout room.
Could you do that?
Yeah.
Breakout room? Okay. Michael's going to do a breakout room.
I said potential.
No, you promised it. You promised it. Barrier overcome. See how that happens? Solution one. Michael Hester does it all. So we'll see if we can get you in a breakout room so you can actually discuss. But I'll need from you also to have somebody write down barriers in each of these two areas and possible ways to solve that, ideas for solutions. So with that said, I'm thinking maybe kind of a group over here, kind of half of you are here, a group here, and a group there, maybe 4 groups. Is that okay? You want to move your chairs around. Administrators, you can drop into a group and stick around. You can flow groups like I'm going to do. You kind of see how conversations go, up to you. But again, constructive, collaborative, problem focused, not past focused, but current solution focused.
Okay, I just put them in 2 different rooms.
Great.
So I'm gonna open it and then.
Great. Nice.
You should be able to join those rooms now. Yep,
I see someone join. Okay, guys, if you're online, start joining the rooms.
Okay.
My view, you need. You need to.
All right.
Someone's gonna write down, so choose a scribe, get a scribe. And write on a piece of paper, you skip, don't write on your own notebook.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jeff, Laura's question is, how do we want this in the minutes? I made a note of what you asked us to do, like your instructions.
That's it, and then just say that discussion was had, we don't
Okay,
need
yeah.
to
Cool, okay. Got it.
get into the
Discussion.
details of it,
Got it.
but
Okay,
discussions.
cool.
Oh, but I did it. So that's, I didn't. So like that's.
Just so I can make sure it's accurate, so what I heard was, you were saying that there's a limited resource in the fact, time and energy, and some things seem more valuable. At the moment. Instead of pretty low on the list, it's thousands in this culture.
want to talk about ideas for solving that particular problem now? Then you want to
Yeah.
So then kind of that's what we started in place. So then maybe that's.
There is now these office there that's industry and also are very extended to activities of how that comes. They're very specific, like one more leash. So I wanted to bring back office technology.
What's the issue is really if you're documented criteria for evaluation includes senator and value.
Yeah.
That.
Yes, so that's good, because we've had a value that was like. Does this work out here? Departments count, how to put the kind of source, how's it go? It's having very specific cycles.
We did start with discover how to being estimated and what is our that. Otherwise, is it want this feature out and solution or I mean, one which we talked about incentives. Very defined to incentivize see working on this and as work the that would be solution for that. I can see it's like So are you suggesting that maybe it's unclear how much the work they can is valued by these departments? Yeah. That might be as a matter of communication, maybe we don't help for administration to communicate. And opinions, I can see it in the sort of a barrier and solution. Communicating or being aware that you're about to barriers. Hear that. You walk here, there's a bit of sort of philosophy, one of the big problems with our side, very small, was that we had 6 buyers. And we got so the three of us, we got three both. That's the there was that's policy. I don't know how to do it, but I had to do that.
Physics, one of our colleagues is also in the same position, having a philosophy. Tenure track persons, they might have some. More content. So that's one way to order the things. Right, so that's why you can stress.
So I hear that very loud and clear. Stretch the. I did. I mean, we should wait to address that. I mean, health. Manage that. Harder than it's not. I don't know. Membership, it's like usually a program. I wonder if I could. If we think about. Do they meet every month? Do they need to be, you know, more task force, like if something comes up, we get one. Oh, that's like, we need the structure we have now, because what being a senator requires is usually a monthly set and a monthly meeting. Is that structure? We can be flexible. Try to reduce the number of people. Not my committee like that. This not. Not bad. Not if you were senators.
Yeah.
I don't know about the ballot. I don't. I have said. We're not going 4 hours. So these are keeping them. I would want you to serve on committees, so we all do. I don't think PBC has a different sort of low against you. Yeah, I'll see what I can send agenda too. That's what to think about. Like waiver change the agenda or the structure of our committees or how often they meet. Just having a meeting. I think that.
I would say from my perspective, not bring a survey to separate things from the jury. That is something committed for my other committees. That's me, or me, industry. So I'm research building, and so I have to go over there for you. So pretty much, you know, because I'm using lots of the afternoon, I need to have a walk afternoon, Friday or something like that, if I would be able to. So that's specific additional barrier, I think aligns with a lot of these lines, but if I was thinking about extending the commitment, well, I know that 2 or 3 out for Friday afternoon, that would come. That's where you're not moving my.
Yeah. I will be honest with my perspective. I would rather have your labor for a shorter time. Much more effective than your labor for a longer time. It's not really getting much done. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to waste things like that. It's hard work. It doesn't. That's why we pass rather than just general agenda. I contact you can sign that. So I mean, I'm just, you don't really prove it. If you guys creatively, we are there. This is why it's the official. The method of chair of see that. Or if I have one thing I did.
There's sort of a subtle way it happens now, like you can see how way more members on. Which suggests. So it's always. Workload. But the idea of. Advertising the work of an area. And then only needed.
So it's
In other words, like, you have to have it be assigned to a committee from the very beginning. You need to assign like a task, but not. I'm getting a little wild here. Like, let's say there is an eight. Basically, like, let's say. Then needs to come to the work. But it might be other than that. They don't have. There's a reason. So committees. Can have reasons rather than just exist.
Yeah.
For the sake of existing.
There's not like.
That seems to make no sense. Okay. So if you think about it.
Together. They figure out.
Rarely actually. All I know Pass me up a little bit.
More than, what's the?
That's how we do it.
I kind of want to be, I think we have. Press, barriers.
Right. Yeah.
Further. Yeah, one of these time deal barrier is, there's a lot of momentum. And since but I've been done this for years. You may know how to do this. I don't know. So there's also that much this knowledge. Getting inside maybe that's some of those, that's also sometimes. Because I've seen this problem. So I don't know. But I think that's a barrier.
mentioned. Part of requirement. And we said it's service to the.
Service to the institution, but you need to find other ways. I know I was specifically, find her the kind of, we project, so we need from so many months in, because the fact we can have one, we can't have it, it's the science says. As I said, it was one of those things. We went to so many preview days, whatever that. Structure. I have been very quiet and get together, right? But just like there's that opportunity. That's right. All before I have skills and abilities that are in to all of that. Maybe that's it. I'll say you were the meeting I came from at right. I think there's some good political difference in
So we'll.
I don't know. So again, it didn't really stick up that.
We did it cover ever since.
Yeah.
The challenge you got, I mean, there is some large ends up being. Or something turn it into. We have. How much that is.
And it is, those are at the exit.
It's still the case that all that this has that is. They're the same. We all could use. You don't. We're not going to.
Person is.
Yeah. Short amount of time to fill the laws.
I mean, all.
I don't get it. You're talking about one set. Every day.
Few more minutes.
Again, I have a sort of. I like to be that's. It's not.
I think this
Do that good stuff in conversation, the conversation, right? That's why I should lens. Or hear about people build this is. Yeah. Maybe that's.
If you can hear me, the chair is, maybe you can hear me if I talk over here. The chair is checking in with the last in-person group.
personnel or that they were from the trade. And then it was.
I'm here for Kenny McLean.
Yes.
And for Monica, I think. Katie around. And then Laura.
Okay, everybody, if you can wrap up and come back to the center here.
Yeah, these groups are back.
They're back. Actually, look. Whoever was scribe, will you hand those to like the end of the road? I'll grab them. Anyone else with pride before?
Thank you, people online. I'm seeing your stuff and I'm gonna make sure this is in the paper. I got the chat open, so that helped.
We will let that.
Okay, everybody. President can't follow instructions, sorry. Apologize. So we just have a few minutes. I really appreciate your discussions and I was able to gather and glean some things. I'm gonna, of course, go through this. Couple things that came through for me in terms of just barriers that I want to mention, and please add if there were others, but feeling spread too thin is a challenge for people. And having to prioritize what you value most. And often that's not Senate work, especially when the Senate work doesn't feel like it's going somewhere that's valuable. So that's really helpful to me, and we're going to think a lot about this. We're going to continue this discussion, by the way. As I gather some thoughts on this and get some themes, we'll come back and maybe next meeting with our time, we'll try to think more concretely. And I'm going to be in communication with the administration about this too, about how we can really start to then have people feel valued about serving on the Senate, have them feel valued and able to serve as a Senate committee chair. One of the things I learned from listening is that people don't know how to, run a meeting, to do an agenda. They're not trained in leading that kind of a group. So we need to provide training and help people feel like up to speed on that, so they don't have that intimidating sort of feeling when they start out. And just so you know, we want to do that training in the spring, but we just didn't have personnel. We had asked for committee chairs every executive meeting, right, Jason? I asked for committee chairs elects, and no one ever came forward. So I can't train people who aren't present, right, who aren't there. So we want to get ahead of this and help you feel valued, help you feel like you're knowledgeable on how to be a committee chair. And then make sure that the incentives, I don't know what other word to use, that there can be internal and external incentives, but that the incentives really do work to make people find being a senator and a Senate leader valuable, important, and effectual. That it actually has an impact and an effect on this university and its future. So I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to go through this. I hope the chat group was able to generate a document of some kind. And I am going to get back to you on this, and we're going to keep talking. And it may take some drastic changes, or it may take some just basic sort of, easy changes. Like I think this group talked a lot about or a couple times about pizza and coffee would be nice. So, we could get a little spread, right? We can do a little spread. And, I'm the guy who eats with my students because that's how you form community. So I am all about it. You can tell, right? So I don't mind. We can have 2 spreads. We got tiers of spreads, the terrace of spreads with a chocolate fountain. Okay, I'll stop. So yeah, please keep your thoughts coming. Email me as you like. I'm going to start up again the chat with the faculty senate chair. That's where every month I'm just available if you want to meet. I appreciate one senator who came to me last year and we had a little meeting online, but I would love to have all voices come either to that meeting or email me, but don't stop thinking about things, okay? We just started and let me know as thoughts come to you. I want the Senate to function in its shared governance role. And I can say this with total confidence because I've met with these 2 gentlemen enough. They want it too. Is there any question that you want the Senate to function in a shared governance role that matters? There's no question. And I've come to learn that from working with them directly. And that's what I think, that's why I had them here, so you can work with them directly, or at least they can hear from you directly. That communication and that collaboration is our future. If we don't do it, we're going to fail. They won't fail. The university won't fail, but the Senate could fail. So please, I don't want to give a fear campaign, but please keep the feedback coming to me. I want to improve us. I've only got till the end of this year. So someone else is going to be improving us after that, but I want to keep that. I want to get that momentum going. So keep the feedback coming. Thank you all so much. Our time is up. Thank you to those of you online. I hope your discussions were also fruitful. We're going to keep talking. So next meeting, be prepared to talk more. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Did I get all your papers? Did I get yours?